M3, report of the Finance Committee, and the recommended motion that the report of the Finance Committee dated June 18, 2009 be received and the recommendations adopted. Moved by Trustee Clark, seconded by Trustee Laura Campbell. Trustee Clark, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go through this as dealing with all the items that the committee attended to that night, but leaving the budget to the last, if you will. So maybe we'll take questions on the first section first, and then we'll deal with the budget. So we began the evening by approving our architects for Swinston Churchill Secondary School, Word Parliament Oak Public School, Pine Grove Public School, and John Marshall Public School. These are all architects that have worked for the board before, have a good reputation with the board, and are familiar with the type of work that we've been asking, or that we're asking them to do on these particular projects. Next, we move to the architect appointment for the new Niagara on the Lake Elementary School, and again, the BP Panici Architect Incorporated is an architectural firm that's worked with this board on several projects, and projects similar to the designing of in fact, they worked on Power Glen Public School, Cadis, Durden Public School, so they have lots of experience in dealing with elementary schools. And then skipping for the moment over the budget items to the central computer system, you'll know that we put aside monies each year in reserve for the time when we need to update the central computer system, and we have now an amount of money in reserve specifically for the central computer system, and we're recommending to the board that staff be directed to upgrade the central computer system by using the reserve set aside for that purpose. And similarly with the voice over telecommunications system, again, we put aside a certain amount in reserve each year for the telephone system when it needs to be upgraded. And in fact, at this point, telephone system has really gone beyond what we would normally expect. It's life expectancy, but they've been studying different types of systems, and the recommended system is the Mattel 3300 IP communications platform, and again, this would be purchased using the money that's been set aside by the board each year in a reserve fund for that purpose. It was reported to us that we had received approval from the Ministry of Education to transfer $8,755,000 from capital reserves for projects that we already had approval for, Orchard Park, Gainsborough, Winston Churchill, and the addition to South Lincoln. And also we had a request from the CAW National Campaign to Buy Canadian. We got an extensive report that you'll see in your package on that, and you'll see the recommended motion that the District School Board of Niagara, in accordance with the purchasing policies, support in principle the concept of Canadian, and continue to make every effort to ensure that products and services are obtained within Canada where possible. Now, perhaps if there are any questions on any of those items, I could take them now before we move on to the budget.
Are there any questions? Trustee Campbell.
First, on the central computer system, the reserve that's been built up is just over $2 million over time, because it was foreseen that that central computer system would have to be upgraded someday. However, the total cost of the upgrade, including safety equipment and installations is $1,930,000. Doesn't use the whole reserve. So I think the motion should specify that's the portion of the reserve that we're spending by passing this motion, and not the entire reserve. So I would suggest that the motion be reworded that staff be directed to upgrade the central computer system using $1,930,000 of the reserves set aside for this purpose. Otherwise, it's open to the amount of money being spent, and it might be inviting a cost overrun.
I see nothing wrong with that, Robert. That would be a suitable amendment.
Okay.
Okay. Also, the voice over internet protocol telecommunications system, that the Mitel 3300 IP communications platform proposed by Activo be purchased at a cost of $1,401,520 to replace the existing DSBN telephone system. Specify the amount of money available, I think up to a cost of $1,401,520 would again place a limit on the amount spent. And I think if we're going to be responsible, we should control any expenditures beyond that should they be required. So I would suggest up to, after the word purchased, up to a cost of $1,401,520, if that's okay.
Again, I see nothing wrong with doing that. We didn't talk about that at the committee, but I would understand by that motion if, in fact, there were extenuating circumstances in putting this in, that then the staff would come back to the board to see if they could use some more of the reserve for that purpose.
Yes, with a future motion. And then
I consider both of those friendly amendments.
okay. And then the Buy Canadian motion, again, I find it a little bit too open for my senses. Support in principle the concept of Buy Canadian and continue to make every effort to ensure the products and services are obtained in Canada where possible. And I would add the words, and where cost effective. Because there could be an outrageous large cost from a Canadian supplier. And let's face it, we're not really getting all Canadian goods and services when we buy from a Canadian supplier, where they use the figures, we're getting 99% of our goods or something like that Canadian. We're buying from Canadian suppliers, but let's face it, all the electronic equipment we're buying is made in Southeast Asia. So it's really not buying Canadian, but it's using Canadian suppliers that's really happening here. So we might take another look at that in the future, and where it comes to vehicles, for instance, that we're purchasing, that they be vehicles assembled in Canada. Because when I bought a vehicle a ways back, it was stamped for export only, and it came from the United States. And I bought a vehicle that didn't really support employment in Canada. So I would add the words, and where cost effective.
I see nothing wrong with that. It's certainly a friendly amendment. I think we have to, it's in the global economy, it's a very, very difficult thing to buy one item.